Today we're going to look at the first paragraph of the Oxford Chapter 15 story. And the story is about a Roman named Cincinnatus. While we read the story, similar to Chapter 14, we're going to be paying attention to our pronouns and our subordinate clauses. Ubi Quintus et Horatia ad ludo domum redeant flacusque ab agro omnes quiescent. So when Quintus and Horatia return home from school, and Flaccus returns home from the field. So we're going to have to use our returns home for both clauses. Everyone rests. Mox Quintus pater inquit si vis nara nobis fabulam. Soon Quintus says, Father, si vis. So let's pause here and take a second and tell me which vocab word that you learned does vis come from. Nice job. It's the second person from volo, and we'll write that up here. So if you want, tell a story to us. Ille respondit, quam fabulam audire cupis, Quinte. He responded, what story do you want to hear, Quintus? Quintus fabulam mihi nara inquit de cincinato, pater. Quintus said, tell the story to me about Cincinnatus, father. Ille, illam fabulam, iam saepe adoviste, Quinte, sed si tu cupis eam iterum audire, ego volo eam narrare. His father said, you have often heard this story, Quintus, but if you desire to hear it again, I wish to tell it. And here's our volo again. So before we start looking for pronouns, let's take a second and see if you can find two subordinate clauses. So look for sentences that have a main clause and then a subordinate clause. Take a few minutes and you can put your answer in the question box to the side. Alright, so your two subordinate clauses are going to be si vis, if you wish, and then we have another one down here, if you desire to hear it again. So remember, these clauses can't stand on their own. Tell a story to us makes complete sense on its own, so that's going to be your main clause. These are going to be your subordinate clauses. And as we're looking here, I actually found a third subordinate clause. So if you remember, the words that you know that introduce subordinate clauses are going to be quod, dum, si, ubi, or a relative. So introduce subordinate clauses. So I forgot this one right up here, and this is a long clause. So ubi Quintus et Horatia, and we're going to go all the way down to agro. So when Quintus and Horatia returned home from the school, and Flaccus from the field, right? They all rest, can stand on its own, but when they return, cannot. So this is going to be your subordinate clause. All right. Now let's focus on finding some pronouns. So let's start by finding our first or second person personal pronouns. So you should be able to find, I think, about 4 in this paragraph. So see if you can find 4 first or second person personal pronouns and put them in the question box to the side. All right. Let's go through. We'll highlight our personal pronouns in green. So the first one you should have come across is nobis, right? This is our first person, plural, and it's dative because it's your indirect object. Tell a story to us. Then right below it, we have another dative, but this time it's first singular. Tell the story to me. right? 2 or 4 are good examples of words we'll use in English to introduce indirect objects. So first, singular, dative. Then, if we skim down to the bottom of our passage, we get some nominatives. Remember, you don't have to use nominative personal pronouns. They really only show up if you're emphasizing your subject. So here we're going to see them because we're contrasting subjects. If you, second person singular nominative, want to hear the story again, I, right? So we don't need these nominatives because these nominatives are contained in our verb. I, that's the first person singular ending. You, that S is our second person singular. But we're really emphasizing, right, if you wish, I want. So we're putting a lot of focus on our subjects here. So that's why you see those. All right, now the last thing we're going to look for are examples of third person pronouns or demonstrative adjectives. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 examples that we can find. So see if you can find 5 examples of third person pronouns or demonstrative adjectives. And take a second and you can put them in the question box. All right, let's see what examples of third person pronouns or demonstrative adjectives we can find. And we can highlight these in blue. So the first one that I see in our reading is Ile here. So a kind of cool thing about Ile, and you've seen your book use this a ton, is that it'll show you that you're switching subjects in your sentence. So Ile, Ela, Elid. Show a change in subject. So Ile here is going to be masculine, nominative, singular. He responds, right? So if you wish, Quintus was our subject. So soon Quintus says, Father, if you wish, tell a story to us. He responds. Here we're switching back to Flaccus as our subject, right? So Ile is used to show that we switch from Quintus to Flaccus. Take a second in the box and just respond whether you think Ile here is a pronoun or an adjective. All right, if you answered pronoun, you are correct. And one thing that you're going to come across on assessments down the line are questions about whether these are pronouns or adjectives. If it's a pronoun, what word is it taking the place of, or what does it refer back to? And if it's an adjective, what word is it agreeing with? So here we already said, right, Ile is taking the place of Flaccus. All right, our next one, we are going to have to go down towards the end. We have another Ile. So again, right, Ile, starting off our sentence, it's going to show a change in subject. So Quintus said, tell the story to me about Cincinnatus. And then he, so we're switching back to Flaccus again. So instead of having to say Quintus Flaccus, we can use the pronouns to kind of streamline our story. All right, so we're going to mark this. It's another masculine, singular, nominative pronoun. Whoop. Pronoun. There we go. All right. Now we have another example right next to Ile. We have Elam. Elam here is going to be feminine, accusative singular. And take a second in the question box and think about whether Elam is a pronoun or an adjective. All right, if you answered adjective, you were correct. Elam, that story. You have often heard that story, right? So Elam is referring to story. It's agreeing with story. And you can tell, too, they're both, story is also feminine, accusative, singular. So this is going to be an adjective. All right, now for our last two examples, and we can talk about these at the same time because they're the same word doing the same thing. We have these two aeons down here. So these aims, right, are going to be feminine, accusative, singular. Same thing here, feminine, accusative, singular. So for our last couple questions, first of all, take a minute and answer in the question box whether aiam is a pronoun or an adjective. All right, if you answered pronoun, you are correct. It's not agreeing with anything. We're not going to translate it as this or that. It's just taking the place of a word. So now I want you to think about what word is taking the place of. If you wish to hear it again, I wish to tell it. What's the it here? What does aiam refer to? Alright, if you answered fabulum, you are correct. That's the it. What do you wish to hear? What do I wish to tell? The story. And our pronouns are going to be the same gender and the same number as the noun that they replace, but they'll get the case from the use in their own sentence. So here, both of these aims are accusatives because they're both the direct objects.